Hello and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show, the only podcast in real estate investing that teaches what you need to know to find and flip deals right now. Break free the chains that are holding you back and join us on this episode with Jason Lucchese.
Hey, what's up? It's Jason Lucchese and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show. We have no excuse but bring you great content today. On this episode, we're going to be covering some fantastic information that you need to know in your business so that you can go out there and see the results that you want within your business. And I've got a special guest with me. He's not here on every single episode, so it is quite the treat. I've got Michael Bretthauer, aka The Myth, with us. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, and because we're doing the launch for season 2, it's a pleasure to be here for these first few episodes as we get things going. I know you've got some crazy guests lined up, so I'm pretty pumped to hear, just be a part of those episodes. But it's great to be back. Got a great topic, great question that a lot of people have been asking, and I know you've got some great insights because I've learned everything I know about this from you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm completely humbled by that. I know there's a lot of great folks out there that have inspired and mentored me over the years. And I just want to be able to, give you as much of that as possible, because one of the things that we've been hearing, and if you haven't listened to episode 4 yet of the No Flipping Excuses Show, I strongly urge you to go and listen to that after this episode because it will tie everything in for you. And one of the things that we've been hearing, we've been talking to folks about is really the selling part of getting deals under contract. And I will tell you this, Mike, and you know it, it's all a mental game. You either will talk yourself into winning or you will talk yourself into losing. There is no in between. Like I've always said, you either have a plan A that you're going to go 100% all in with, or you're going to give yourself a plan A, but it's going to be a weak plan A, but you're going to have a plan B. So you're going to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and you're never really fully committed. So if you could fully commit to what we're going to give to you on this episode, you're going to see a remarkable change in the results for your business.
Life-changing. It will be, and I'm not trying to just say that because I'm a part of the show and we work together and we've done this, but it's because it's in my own life and my own experience working with Jason and even watching him grow, because I've seen him acquire these skills when you were younger. So it's not like, he was endowed with this wonderful ability to talk to people and find out their motivations, but it was something that you can learn right now just by listening to this.
Yeah. The great thing with what we're going to be covering on today's episode is really how you could get more deals under contract and how you could talk to people in an effective way to where it doesn't come across as salesy, to where it doesn't come across as, that used car salesman that's wearing like a 1970s suit and has the bell bottoms.
He's got the can of snake oil and he's like, this is the cure-all that cures all.
Exactly. And once you could actually talk to people like human beings, that's going to go a very long way. Now, you need to treat people with not necessarily the way that you like to be treated, but you need to treat them in a way that's above and beyond. Because once you can have a service that goes above and beyond, that's going to always set you apart from anyone else. And one of the things that I learned early on, especially when I was just getting started from a sales standpoint, right out of high school, I started selling Cutco knives. Now, from a knife standpoint, everybody's like, how were you able to do what you did? And I sold almost $20,000 worth of knives in a 1 month period. And it was because I didn't want to go to school. I knew school wasn't for me. So I really needed to establish myself on, do I have the drive? Do I have the motivation to do this? And if I wanted to start somewhere, I was going to start with knives because that was the only opportunity that really came my way. I was also working at GNC at the time. I was rocking that out, but the commission structure was just awful. It was more for a retail standpoint than anything. But one of the things is with that, the only way that I was able to do as well as I did is I made the phone calls, yes, but I was able to interact with people and look them eye to eye when I would actually go to their home. And I would be able to have a good conversation with people that allowed me to have them open up to me. And that's what we're going to really dive into on this episode, is talking to people and having them give you the information. Because I will tell you this, the more talking you do, the less you're going to win on that conversation, because you're not going to truly find out what their motivations are for wanting to sell that particular property. Right, Mike?
Yeah, and that's kind of like the thing. A lot of people ask me and ask you and ask us, how do you find motivated sellers? And they're literally everywhere. I mean, you could drive downtown Indy and just pick a street and find probably 3 or 4 motivated sellers within that block. It's not where or how do you find motivated sellers. It's how to find the motivation within your seller to get that deal. I mean, that's really what it's about.
It's so funny. There's a lot of people out there that say, hey, here's how you find motivated sellers. It's like the sellers don't know that they're motivated until you could bring out the motivations. It's just like, when we have been talking to so many folks recently with, we've been increasing a lot of productivity within our own businesses. And one of the things is we've been calling folks, and the only way to find out if they are motivated is by finding out what they are motivated about. Like recently, we talked to a couple. They're older. They're in their early 80s, and they have multiple properties. They're in a really bad car accident. They were T-boned, and leaving the wife she needed surgically repaired hips, surgically repaired ankles. The husband just recently had prostate cancer. Because of the accident, he lost a part of his nose. That stuff was only brought to our attention when we were just sitting back and talking to them and having them give all of that information to us. Did we ask them, hey, were you in an accident at all?
No.
No, that's not a question you ask. You don't just say, hey, were you in an accident? This information was given to us. We first of all were given the permission to receive this information. So you need to find out what the motivations are.
Right. And was it the first thing he said? Did he come right off the bat and be like, hey, Jason, I just got into this wreck a little bit ago. This is what's happened to me. These are all my strifes and struggles.
Yeah. And well, before we even were able to get past the gatekeeper, who was the wife, she talked to us on the phone first and foremost. We were calling to see if they had any properties, or we were actually just calling about one particular property.
Specific property.
And then they told us they had multiple properties. And the thing with the wife, she told us that the husband, he's got cancer. He's not doing well. He only could talk, after certain times in the day just because he's so exhausted and tired. And she told us that information. She told us he had cancer. And if you know anything about sales, that's a motivation. You're in a position to where you've got something unfortunate going on, and you've got all these properties that aren't being managed by a property management company. The other thing too that we were able to find out is they wanted to move away from our winters.
Yep.
They wanted to move away from our winters. They wanted to go someplace a little bit more south, and they wanted to find a place that, they could, go and be a little bit closer to some of their family.
Yep.
And they wanted to do that. So right off the bat, what motivations have we found out from them?
They have a motivation to want to move closer to family. They have health issues that are really hindering from where they're living currently, and they sort of need to move. It's not even like a want at that point. They need to move, and they want to do it quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the wife really told us too, also, they are in one of their rental properties that they originally always have rented. And one of the main reasons why they wanted to get into that property is because it was so close to the fire department, just in case something happened to the husband, that they could call 911 right away and they would be there within seconds.
And let's just go beyond the fact and just say that's no way to live. Like, that's no way to be like, well, I have to live in this house because it's next to the fire department. And that's the only people I can rely on in case something happens. That's just no way to live. So at this point, it's not even just about solving his, motivation. It's helping him get what he needs.
Yeah. Yeah. When we originally had that conversation, because we wouldn't have been able to set up an appointment to go and talk with these folks if we originally couldn't have gotten past the original gatekeeper, which in this case was the wife. She was looking out for her husband. She was looking out for best interests. And all we did was we asked a simple question. And that simple question was, and I'll tell you exactly what I said. because we recorded all those calls because we were with our partners at that time, our new partners that we recently allowed to come on board with us, is that I simply called and said, hey, my name is Jason Lucchese. I was calling because we're interested in buying properties in and around the neighborhood. And I was calling about, 123 Main Street. And I wanted to see if you guys were potentially interested in selling it.
Simple.
And that's how it all started.
Yep.
And then, some of these people out there, they have these long lead sheets that they fill out with all these different things. And they ask all these different questions that are very kind of like, you're kind of like poking them. How you see like, different types of animals being prodded with the electrical tip. And most people don't like a gazillion questions. They like questions that ask them questions about them, not so much their properties, but like, what is the why behind you wanting to sell the property?
Right. People love to talk about themselves, and everybody that they've talked to already knows pretty much everything about them. So they have this buildup of stuff they like to tell. They just have nobody to tell it to. And then, hey, here comes Jason, and yeah, I'll listen. Within, he's not going to, obviously, you have to maintain control of the conversation, not letting them rant forever. But I'll listen. I'll listen to your troubles. Yeah, my ear's open. What do you got for me?
Yeah, it's also too having different tones of the voice. If you're very robotic when you talk to people, they're going to be able to tell that you're somewhat new. You're reading a script. I always tell folks, hey, here's a script you can use, but don't use it verbatim. You need to talk to people not sounding all scripted, because if you sound too scripted, people aren't going to like that. Some people may do. I'm not trying to dismiss a script, because we do provide scripts for our partners, but it's just a general, we give those to people so they could get past.
They're more or less guidelines, to how
yes.
you should get on the phone. And whenever we're working with our partners and with our students, we can tell them, like, listen, this is just a guideline from A to B. Okay. You got to put yourself into the person. You got to put your personality in that mix. You got to be yourself. You got to talk to the person like you talk to anybody else. Because if I talk to you like I talk to somebody I hate, you're going to feel it. But if I talk to you like I talk to somebody that I love, you're going to feel that.
Yeah. And, a couple of things that I've always done is I always talk a little bit slower when I'm talking to people, because that's one of the things that really helped me out when I was at Countrywide. I would always, when I would do my outbound calls, I would always talk to people in a somewhat slower voice, not like in a very rapid pace type voice. Because whenever I would hear other people doing calls and they would talk at a very fast pace, they would never get the end result that they wanted. The individual was either selling them or they were being sold. And I would always talk to people a little bit slower. And I remember this one individual, she had an accent. She was from the Ukraine. And the only reason that she decided to come with me is because I talked slower to her. I wasn't talking very fast because she was somewhat new to the United States, and we were able to do business. And I was able to get her a refinance on her property, save her a ton of money, but that was the only thing. So you need to do what's also called mirroring. So if somebody, if you ask a question and then they are coming back and say, for instance, they say something about the property. The roof needs to be repaired. Part of that mirroring is you ask back, the roof needs to be repaired. And then that person will respond back and tell you everything about the roof. Then maybe they'll tell you the roof has leaks. That's why it needs to be repaired. There's parts of the house that needs to be repaired. So that's part of the mirroring process. And then you could also talk with positivity in your voice. You could talk positive about what you're going to be able to do, what you're going to be able to help them with. It's not all about you. The less that you can use the word I is going to be so much better as an outcome for yourself. Right, Mike?
Yeah. And that old saying, laughter is contagious. When you smile, when you talk on the phone, it gets projected. It changes your tone. When I talk with a smile, it just comes out. If I talk with a frown, I'm not trying to change the tone of my voice. It just happens. So yeah, just, having that positive mental attitude when you get on the phone, smiling just like this. It's funny. We're laughing, but that tone gets conveyed to the person on the other line. And there's been times when people have thanked me.
Yes.
Yes. There's been times when people have thanked me for talking with them. I remember the time we were having a conversation with somebody, they were really, really rude. And I matched them in a sense that I'm like, I matched their tone at first and then I brought it back to a happy tone and then they matched me and everything was good. And they may or not be a lead, but if you approach every sales call, I don't even call it a sales call. If you approach every call that you do just like that, that positive attitude, like, yep, I'm going to be able to solve this person's problems every time, not just, well, if this one doesn't work, I got the next call. No, this person every time, that mental attitude, smiling when you talk on the phone, smiling before you even answer is key.
Yeah, you really have to imagine yourself as being a doctor giving solutions. You have to be able to give that, and you have to be able to give solutions to people because at the end of the day, they're looking to hear solutions, not benefits. Those benefits that most people pitch may not be benefits that benefit them. They may be benefiting you. So when you give them solutions to their problems, for example, the couple that we've been talking about, like, hey, we're going to be able to help you with the properties. We're going to be able to help you get these properties sold very quickly so that you could find your property in Tennessee. The other big thing too is that they wanted to have time to find a new house in Tennessee. So that's one of the things that they really wanted is that, hey, how quickly is this going to take? Most people like to hear, again, this is a benefit for us, is we could close in 2 weeks, maybe less. She was like, she got a little frazzled at that point, like, oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to be out that quick. So that was a benefit. And I didn't even take the time to say, well, how long would you like?
And that scared her right away to think that. And then prodding further along, we found out the things that really matter was like, we got family here and grandkids here that, they would want to coordinate stuff with, and family to them is huge. So you were able to dial that back pretty quick. Well, we can work with that. And as long as they knew like, hey, we don't have to be out tomorrow, but you can help us get out as quickly as possible and get us to closer to our family. Okay. And they, you solve their issue. You solve their challenge that was really holding them back from happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. It really just comes back to them. It never is really about you. And if you want to get a certain price that they can agree to, it really boils down to you being able to find out their whys. And it's not just going to be one why. You need to find out their whys. You could find out quite a bit when you're talking to somebody about their property. Most of the time when I'm talking to people and I'm having them walk me through the property, how I get them to that point is, oh, well, could you tell me a little bit about the property since I haven't been to that property? Can you walk me through like the front door? Like, what do I see? Like, can you just kind of explain it to me a little bit? And then they'll maybe say, we're in the kitchen now. And, the kitchen's got a little bit of a plumbing problem. And I'll say, it's a plumbing problem. And that's a question without me really kind of making a question. I'm mirroring exactly what they said. And that'll get them to open up about that. We may have to completely take apart the subflooring to find out what the problem is with the leak from the plumbing. So it's being able to find out that type of stuff. The other thing too is being able to point out, like, as you're, having them disclose all of this information to you over the phone, it's all the information that you need to come up with a solution to their problem. So if it's going to be like $30,000 in repairs, or it's going to, take them XYZ time to get the property rented out, or it's going to take them XYZ to go over and maintain the property, you need to kind of paint that picture. Well, here's how we do that. In this particular case, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to buy these properties from you. We're going to give you the time needed so that you can go and find the property that you want in Tennessee. I know that you told us you talked to a few folks, but you didn't finalize anything. Well, we're going to give you plenty of time to do that. I know you have a lot of items here, family stuff that you want to move with you to Tennessee. That's not going to be a problem. If you need help from a moving stance, we could help you out with that as well. So that's not going to be a problem for you. You going over and having to manage these properties yourself, you're not going to have to do that anymore. We'll go ahead and take those properties and get them, to where you don't have to do that anymore. The other thing too is at closing, we're going to take care of the closing costs so that you can have the additional expenses to pay for anything from a moving standpoint, so you could get to the property that you need to. Things like that is what you need to say. You need to paint the picture. I always say that. If you don't paint the picture of what you're doing, and then if somebody says, no, I don't like your offer, then you need to paint the picture of what will happen if they don't take your offer. So in this particular example, okay, so what do you guys have planned for managing these properties? I know, and this isn't his real name, but what is John and you looking to do, Cheryl, with these properties? Like if somebody needs something in the middle of the night, something's busted and broken, are you guys going to go out there and take care of those properties, or what's the plan? So you need to kind of find out, like reverse it back to them so that they could be like, oh yeah, this is really going to be awful if we don't take this offer. And there's always room for negotiation on your offer, but you never want to disclose your number first. And that's something that's been going out for a long time in sales. And it's something that I fully believe in, that you don't want to offer up your number first, because as soon as you do that, all of your cards are laid out on the table. Once all of your cards are laid out on the table, you've essentially lost the game of negotiation. And that's something, as soon as that's lost, you're not in control anymore. You essentially gave what's called your frame to that person, and now they are in complete control. And you'll more than likely never get that frame back from them unless they slip up.
Yeah. So when you tell somebody, you let it slip, we could offer anywhere between $30,000 and $80,000. Well, now you can offer $80,000 or more. That's their mindset immediately. And not all your the potential sellers, I like to call them as potential sellers, because you still have to find the motivation. Are going to be people in that position. You might talk to people that are either have an investment property, just. People buy properties all the time and have them as rentals, and they just do that as side income, and it got overwhelming. And it's to a point where they're like, they haven't really thought about selling it, but it's a pain in the butt and they're having to deal with it. I talk to those types of people all the time. They don't have property managers in place. They're managing the property themselves. It's a hassle, and they've thought about selling it, but it's not on the market. And when you start talking to them and finding out these little, so you're managing the property yourself and you're working full time. Well, it must take a lot of your day. Yeah. So if you could walk away from that, that would be hugely helpful. Their bottom dollar is problem solved. That's really the name of the game for them.
Yeah. Like me saying, how would this affect you if we were able to purchase all of these properties for you? What would that do for you?
Right.
And you're getting the type of question out of them, and don't be afraid of hearing like a no. If you hear like a no from them, that's not like, oh man, the deal's completely dead. Maybe you structured your question in a way to where it does get them into a no. I hear so many people that say you got to get them into like 10 or 12 yeses, and you got to give them in the mindset of, agreeing and saying yes and all this kind of stuff. Don't be afraid to hear no. That's feedback that you need to listen to. You need to acknowledge, and you need to be able to position it in a way to where you could structure a response back. And if you hear a pause from them, that might be them trying to figure something out in their head. That's not you needing to come back and constantly be talking to them.
Yep.
Maybe they just need a minute to process what you just said to them. It's just like, once an offer is presented, you have to be silent. Same thing goes for this. If you hear them go silent for a second, give them a few seconds before you say, hey, is everything okay? You don't want to just go right off the bat, when they need a second, because then they'll be like, gosh, will this guy ever shut up?
A great strategy I've implemented for myself, because I do have that problem, is I'll ask the question and I'll say something, and then I'll just do this and I'll cover my mouth because I'll want to say something, but I'm like, I got to listen. I got to wait and listen.
Yep.
And that was just something I had to do for myself. And maybe you're like that. Maybe you're just impulsive and you got to talk like me. Cover your mouth like I do. And you'd be surprised how many times people, I might be willing to come down $20 just because I kept my mouth shut, just because I didn't say anything.
No, that's a great point, Mike. Sometimes some people do need to just cover up their mouth and just be quiet And, that's part of it. If you're doing a lot of stuff over the phone, I know we have some people that have disabilities and they can only do stuff from their home office. One of the things that you have to get comfortable with is being quiet and listening, putting on your listening ears and being able to jot down things. Like we had somebody that their mother passed away earlier this year and they live, in another state. They're a few hours away. And one of the things that he doesn't want is to have to worry about the property. And I said, worry about the property? And he told us everything that he was worrying about.
Mm-hmm.
He had to worry about the yard. He had to worry about the house being vacant because it's vacant right now.
With a simple mirroring question, worry about the property, and it all spills out. And the natural intention with other people is, well, you know what? I can come in and make you a quick cash offer and, solve all, whatever. They go straight into that and they never found out what he's really worried about.
Yeah. Yeah. And, too, is recently I've been with some of our partners. They're like, aren't you going to come up on your offer if they come back? And I typically say no. And we always have, the follow-up, because if they don't accept your offer right away, don't take it as, okay, great, I'm going to give up. Follow back up in a week.
Yep.
If it's still a no at that point, follow up in 2 weeks.
Yep.
You need to keep following up with them. Prime example is we went and visited a property. And this was a for sale by owner lead. And the individual was at a certain price. I'm not going to disclose it right now, but we were able to get them to come off of their price, their list price, by about $70,000 because I held firm on our offer. At the end of the day, I told them, and this word is huge. Do not use this word. It's an F word. It's a 4-letter word.
It's a 4-letter one. Here we go.
It's a 4-letter word. Do not use this lightly. At the end of the day, I told him, I said, my offer that, I presented to you is 100% fair. And once you use that word fair, it triggers in their head and it gets them to really think, well, maybe he is really offering me a fair offer. Don't use fair a lot because it's really going to screw you up in the long run if you say fair way too much. I only said it once, and it was on the last conversation because they kept coming down on price. And I kept saying, you know what, after looking at the numbers, this really is my max. Then they came within $5,000. And I said, yeah. And that's when I brought out the fair. I said, you know what, my offer at the price that I've given to you is really fair. And I kind of just told them that, and they were like, okay, sounds good. And they were fine with that. So you just have to really kind of hold your ground, and eventually the you know what will come out.
You know what?
The yes will come out.
You know what, Jason? I think that one nugget alone, just that one little statement, my offer was fair, makes the entire episode by itself. Just having that little keyword right there, fair. And actually a great way to segment into time to ask Jason some questions, because we all know what time it is to ask the big man what you want to know.
Let's do it, Mike.
So we got a question from Chris Sweeney. Direct mail seems like a waste of time unless you invest a lot of money and a lot of volume to the same sellers. Also, are there DNC list issues cold calling these prospects, and does texting or emailing work better? Thanks.
So no, that's a great question. And to answer that question, the best thing that I would say is direct mail is definitely not, dead. It's something that you could definitely make a lot of money with, but you really have to be solid on the follow-up. The follow-up is key. So I don't care if you're mailing out 250 or 50,000 pieces. You have to be consistent with those individuals to where they see different pieces from you every week for a 30-day period. And then after that, 2 weeks after your last mailer, I would send out one more. Now, one of the things that Mike and I have been doing here recently is the list that we go ahead and purchase. We will go ahead and have each one of those skip trays to where we have a phone number, and we could also be phone calling those individuals as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a cold call. It could be somewhat of a warm call at that point, because you could simply mention, hey, I sent out a letter to you. I just want to make sure that you received it. And then sometimes they'll be like, you know what, I did. And then you could go ahead and go into a conversation. If they say no, just be like, yeah, I sent it out to you. I was calling in reference to your home there on 123 Main Street. I wanted to see if it was available. Wanted to see if you guys were potentially interested in selling the property. So it could go in that way too. Depends really on your budget. What I typically tell folks is if you have the budget within your business to go ahead and get these different expenditures, then go ahead and get them. But if you haven't closed your first deal yet, you haven't gotten any deals under contract, then I would just recommend trying to do the most simplistic ways in order to generate business so that you don't have a bunch of expenditures right off the bat. Because most people, when they get their businesses going, they spend way too much money. So does the text messaging work? Yes, it does. But make sure that you have the money coming in monthly so that you could afford those services within your business. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, so I've got a very unique question here from a fan of yours, Latasha, who is a struggling mother of three, has bad credit, does not really have a job, so to speak, and is wondering what is the best way to start making money? What is the quickest way that she can start making money?
The best way, in all honesty, and I applaud you, you're a single mother and you're going out there, you've got to hustle, you've got the drive, you got to go out there and get some grinding going. So the best thing that I would do is I would start finding cash buyers, because a lot of the individuals that you could be doing joint ventures with don't have quality cash buyers. So go to like sites like GoSection8.com, find people on LinkedIn, find people on Facebook that are individuals that are potential cash buyers for you, and that you could JV with other people that already have properties. All you need to do is 1 or 2 JVs to where you could put an extra $5,000, $10,000 in your pocket. And then you could start doing some of the other game-changing things like direct mail. You could start having a system in place to where you could be doing calling, and you could start really having a business in place rather than a hobby. So that is a really great way to go build up a cash buyers list, because most people don't have one. And then you could start doing JVs with people that have properties that already spent the money on the direct mail, already took the time and energy to get those properties under contract. That's my recommendation to you.
Great questions all around. But I think we got to wrap this episode up. We covered a lot of great content. We covered, really how to find and dive deep into the motivations of the sellers. And Jason did a great job of talking about just all the nuggets, even that last hidden nugget that I hope you wrote down, because who knows, I might take this episode down and it might disappear. And if you didn't capture that nugget, you're never going to get it.
No, that's true. I hope you were able to grasp and really absorb the information that we shared on this episode, because it literally can change the way that you approach talking to individuals. Either it be a seller, either it be somebody outside of your business. It can literally change a lot of things for you, because the way I talk to people, they really gravitate to the things that I say. And I'm not saying anything extraordinary. It's not like I went to college. I didn't go to the Wharton School of Business. It's just I talk to people the way I talk to people. So get in the habit of just, asking people questions. And it'll really get them to really open up to you and ask and really give you the answers that you need. So with that being said, if you really, really enjoyed this episode, which I'm sure you did, I'm looking right through the lens right now. I'm talking right into the microphone to you right now. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment on the episode that you really, really enjoyed most. Either it's this one or maybe it's another previous episode. Let us know what you were able to take away. Let us know if you were able to take anything away from this episode or anything else, and it's helped you within your business. And make sure you click that subscribe button. Click that subscribe button. You'll get notified of every brand new episode that we have for you. And if you need anything whatsoever, feel free to reach out to us. Support at jasonluchese.com. And that is spelled support at Jason Lucchesi. And the last name is spelled Lucchesi. And that's .com. But other than that, thank you for joining us on the No Flipping Excuses show. I will see you next time, my friend. Take care. Bye.